Yo, what is up guys, and welcome to another episode of Becoming a Wild Rift Expert. And in today's video we're going to be analyzing what was the best region in the previous year, which is China. We have J Team and Nova Esports. Both these teams are in the top 2 right now of Chinese esports, and as you can see, both have won 3 games, or sorry, one has won 3 games and lost 0, and the other one has won 2 games and lost 0 games. As you can see, both teams undefeated up until this point. But let's instantly get into it. Let's take a look at Dawn and Pan on the Darius and the Riven. This is a thing that is a bit more common in some other regions, because I am from EU and I watch a lot of EU and NA esports, but I want to talk about this rotation that Chinese teams tend to do quite often, and Korean teams as well, and Japanese teams as well, by the way. It's kind of funny, right? Like, you have these kinds of regions that have the same playstyle, and I want to say it to you guys right now. My personal opinion is I think China and Korea, and not necessarily Japan, but definitely China and Korea are like on top level. You know, we have to see how it works in this world, of course, but like from what I'm seeing, China and Korea, the best teams, like the best teams in the world. So here you can see, Dawn is actually winning regardless of doing this rotation, and let me tell you why doing this rotation that JT did can hurt them a little bit. So let's actually take a look into the replay and explain to you why. So let's take a look back to it. So Pan and Dawn are taking the top lane minions, right? Like, they're going for it. At the end of the day, they'll get more gold and experience. The net gold and experience is going to be more. But first of all, Pan is going to be losing priority in mid lane. So Guo, sorry if I mispronounce the names, is actually going to get priority. He's going to push out the waves, and he's going to make Pan on the Riven lose a minion. And Dawn on the Darius is actually going to lose experience compared to Yais on the Garen. So the reason is, by the way, because Dawn has to share experience with the Riven, right? Like, that's the whole purpose of this. He has to share experience. But as you can see, somehow, some way, I actually don't even know how, Dawn was able to actually get to level 3 faster than Yais and win the 1 versus 1. Well, not necessarily win, but when a Darius trades evenly with a Garen before like level 5, you can call it a win, because Darius kind of struggles against the Garen early game. So already this is kind of a win for J Team, because if you look at the gold count, 6.8k up against 6.6. Basically, they're ahead, like, you know, between 100 and 200 gold. And where does this gold come from? From the exact rotation that they did in the early game. So you can see it's like, it's working. J Team is already, while not a significant lead, they are already getting a lead. And if you look at Darius and the Riven, you know, Pan and Dawn, at the bottom, you can see they have those leads, right? Like, you can clearly see they are the ones that have those leads, and this is all because of that rotation that they did. Dawn with a beautiful hook, by the way. Like, I really want to say, like, this macro game of JT right here is amazing. The whole reason that this works especially well for their composition as well, by the way, is because Riven and Darius are really good at pushing out a wave. So they were able to push that top lane wave incredibly fast, allowing Pan on the Riven to roam around back very, very easily. And let's actually take a look at the compositions, right? Like, if you look at both these compositions, I want to say both teams have actually drafted an incredibly strong composition, but I would give the edge to J Team. And the reason is they just have the answers to the composition of Nova Esports. And like, if you look at examples, right? Like, Gragas is a melee AP champion. Galio counters that, right? Like, Morgana is really good into that too, because she has a black shield. And then Riven can fight the Garen. Riven can fight the Thresh. Like, JT has done an incredible job drafting into this composition of Nova Esports. They just have the answers to everything Nova has to offer. So but if we actually look at early game versus late game, right? Like, this is also a very important thing that you have to look at. Long is trying to gank Dawn. I don't think he's going to be able to kill him, although they do go for him. Dawn did not see him coming. Yeah, exactly. They caught off Dawn regardless. They did have to use 2 ultimates though, however. So, ooh, Pan escaping barely, but this is, you know, believe it or not, I'm gonna say this, even though Nova Esports takes this kill, this is a big win for J Team. And now I'm gonna ask you guys to test your knowledge. Why on earth am I telling you right here, right now, that even though Nova Esports took the first kill and they are ahead in gold, why is this a big, well, just a win? Why is this a win for J Team? Put it in the comments. Test your knowledge, guys. This is a big one. Like, this is an important one. And if you get this one right, you have the high elo mindset. Because if you don't get it right and, you know, you give the answer that I assume you would give, you don't have the mindset that you need for high elo. So while we look at this fight, I'll give you the answer in like a minute or something. Let's actually first take a look at this fight. Everyone is rotating through Rift Herald, and I know exactly why J-Team is taking this fight. I know exactly why, which is also the answer to the test your knowledge. The answer is, this is totally worth it because Nova Esports used 3 very important ultimates to get that 1 kill only. So what happened? They lost those ultimates, which resulted in J-Team taking a Rift Herald for free. And that is worth it. It is worth. They took the Rift Herald for free, and it is worth it because now J-Team can actually push a turret. And the main reason that this is worth it is because Nova Esports has a significantly stronger early game composition than J-Team. Nova has the Zed, Nova has the Garen, Nova has the Thresh, and the Varus. These are all incredibly powerful early game champions. And if you look at J-Team on the opposite side, they have the Riven, which scales into the late game, Jax, which scales into the late game, Galio, late game, Morgana, late game. So this is all going according to plan, I would say, for J-Team. Although the mid lane Rift Herald was perhaps a bit questionable, you know, they did get the top lane turret yet again, which is amazing for them, but I would say the Rift Herald was perhaps a bit questionable. They used it to waste time, by the way. They used the Rift Herald in the mid lane to waste some time. Here we can see Pan fighting up against Guo again, but you can clearly see Guo is struggling a lot into this Riven, because that's what I mean. The draft from J-Team is amazing, because Riven has a lot of dashes, which means that she can dodge the shurikens of the Zed very, very easily. And Guo just can't get those kills in the early game. And this is a major problem for Nova, because as you can see right now, Nova is actually behind. You know, they are actually behind. They were ahead in gold, but the reason that they got behind is because the Rift Herald, right? Like J-Team put the Rift Herald in the mid lane, they pushed the top lane turret, and they just, you know, they extended their lead. They just want to reach that late game. It is truly amazing and impressive to see how these teams are playing on such a high level already of Wild Rift, right? Like Wild Rift has only been out for like, what is it, like 1.5 years, and to see teams play to this level already is amazing. And here, ooh, Dyke actually gets caught out. Beautiful engage from Nova Esports right there. This is absolutely amazing. This is basically their way of winning a team fight, which is catching out an enemy and getting a kill. Now, if we actually look at J-Team though, yet again, not a major loss. This is not a major loss. Reason is because they were pushing all the lanes. As you can see right now, Nova Esports is losing minions on the top side of the map. And while you may argue that obviously a kill is more important, right? Like I'm not gonna tell you that a kill is not more important. J-Team is compromising with it by making Nova lose farm. So it's just J-Team that really are playing their composition to the right, like with the right mindset, which is we win late game, we don't have to win early game. All we have to do is get to the late game and just don't feed the enemy too much. That's really their, you know, what they want to do. Because even though they're behind 0-3, like J-Team is behind 0-3, first of all, they're not really behind any gold. Like they're behind like 500 gold, you know, between like 400 and 500 gold. They completely outskill the composition of Nova Esports. Completely. So it just really doesn't matter that they're behind a little bit now. All they're doing is just farming. You know, they have a Jax as well. It's like late game upon late game upon late game. And I'm seeing more and more teams execute these late game compositions very, very well. So like this is the perfect example, what you're seeing right here, right? Of course, the game is not won for J-Team. Like on the opposite side, they're actually behind. Nova is doing a decent job at getting ahead in this game. Now, this is actually a good Zed ultimate. I really love this one because Dai on the Galio actually had used his disengage tool already, which means that Guo on the Zed can just ult him for free. You know, compared to him ulting the Riven can of course dash away. This was a very good ultimate because Dai on the Galio cannot run away, which now secured a free Rift Herald for Nova Esports. Amazing play. Now this is of course worth the ultimates, because you may argue that, you know, it was a bit of an overkill because they used the ultimate on the Gragas, long on the Gragas. They used the Varus ultimate, Remake used his ultimate, and then Guo used his ultimate as well. All of this for 1 kill. Normally it's, you know, a bit of a waste because they're only killing the support. But in this case, it is worth it. Reason is Rift Herald, guys. Rift Herald, like, it's such a big objective. Now, JT did compromise by pushing the mid lane turret. As you can see, unfortunately, the mid lane turret is sitting at 13 HP, by the way. But I absolutely love what Nova is doing right here. This is like, you know, JT is like, okay, we want to reach the late game, but Nova is like, no, 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 we want to push as hard as we can in the early game and make sure we destroy them so they don't even get to the late game. And yet again, like, I find this Rift Herald a bit questionable, but I would understand why they used it, right? Like, I do get it. The reason is, you know, they kind of want to waste time, because you can see, right, like they're getting the Infernal Dragon right now, but like I feel they can make even more out of it, right? Like I feel they can make even more out of it. Of course it's worth it for them, because oh, that was a close one. Cherry could have stolen that one, but right here, right now, perhaps JT is falling in a bit of a trap, right? Like they're kind of, whoa, never mind. Wow. Unbelievable, JT winning this fight. I would not expect them to win this fight. The reason that I was saying them falling in a trap is because I see this happen quite often, which is like, you know, when you play this late game oriented composition, a lot of teams fall into this trap, which is like, okay, we still have to fight for objectives, right? Like we still have to fight, but then they just lose the fight and lose and lose and lose, and they only get behind more and more and more. And what happens then is you don't even get to the late game. Now JT, if we look into replay right now, I'm actually kind of curious, because Cherry had a pretty decent engage and decent try to steal the dragon. The fight was not looking too well right here, but Dawn was actually able to get his Darius passive, and then in combination with Pen, oh, there it is, that's what happened. Dawn on the Darius with the beautiful flash. Oh, so the whole reason they won that fight is because Dawn utilized that passive of Darius. He got his passive, then he disengaged, so Nova thought like, okay, Darius disengaged, so we can win the fight anyways. But no, Dawn used his first ability and flashed and hit it on like 3 enemies, dealing massive damage, which allowed Pan to clear it out. Just phenomenal job right there by Dawn, man, that was amazing. Now the problem for JT right now is though, that long on the Gragas is getting fat, and you know, you and me, we both know how annoying a full AP Gragas is, right? Like a full AP Gragas is definitely a champion to carry to the late game, right? And if you look at the builds that JT has, so if we just zoom into the builds right here, you can clearly see that JT is heavily focused on the armor side, right? Like they have Death Stance, they have the Deadman's Plates, some of them have the armor boots as well, which means that long on the AP Gragas is gonna destroy them. He's the one that's gonna be dealing a lot of damage. He actually got saved by Yami on the Thresh right there. He overextended a little bit, but he does get got here. Horrible start for Nova Esports, and he gives us 600 gold shutdown, guys. 600 gold. This is absolutely horrible for Nova Esports. Like when you're in the shoes of Nova Esports right here, you have to keep the snowball for, like, you know, you're rolling the snowball. And as we look into this replay right here, a beautiful taunt by Dai on the Galio, which bought enough time for Dawn to hook the Gragas, and they actually got that kill and the shutdown as well. And the reason that this really sucks for JT, oh, Dawn, I don't think they can kill him because they have the Galio. There it is. Like again, you can see Guoguo is just struggling immensely into this composition of JT because they have the tools to deal with the Z. They just have the tools to deal with the Z. So Guoguo is just really struggling against this composition. But yet again, like Nova just made such a big mistake right there, because now they're losing turrets. You know, the further we get into the late game, the harder it gets for Nova to close out this game, because Z is gonna be well, not useless of course, but practically useless into this composition, you know, with the Death Stance that blocks out 35% of the attack damage and delays the damage over the next 3 seconds. You are not going to be one-shotting a Darius or a Jax anymore, right? Like you're just not. And I just feel Nova is getting in the backhand yet again, even though they have the 2 dragons, even though they are ahead in gold. Well, not anymore actually, but even though they have the 2 dragons, it's just they're not doing enough. They're just not doing enough into the composition of JT. They're not doing enough. They're not getting ahead enough, and they're just really 100% gonna be relying on the Gragas, on the Gragas to carry these fights. Now we're approaching the 3rd dragon, and now we're at the stage of the game where JT is getting to their power spikes, right? Like Dawn on the Darius has the Death Stance, Cherry on the Jax has the Death Stance. Especially Cherry and Dawn are both on level 13, which means they have maxed out their ultimates, which are incredibly powerful team fighting abilities, by the way. Obviously, Cherry's ultimate, which gives him a lot of tankiness. Dawn's ultimate on the Darius, which gives him insane damage. You know, compared to the composition of Nova, who only have long on level 13. And if you actually look, Remake just barely reached level 12. You know, here, like you can see, getting these catches with the thresh hooks don't really matter anymore, right? Like we've approached the stage of the game where the tables are gonna turn, because Remake on the Varus, you can see, like, he's not really doing anything. His damage is not, he's not doing any damage. His arrows just don't hurt anymore. So here, it was a nice try to steal, but yet again, like, Nova now gets caught off guard, guys. A beautiful stasis enchant by Cherry, which keeps him alive right here. And actually, Nova is doing a decent job, but you can see they're struggling. You can clearly see it's not easy kills anymore, right? Like, even though they're still winning the fights, they are. But you can see the further we get into the game, the rougher that it gets for them, right? Like, JT kind of walks away with the dragon here. And it's gonna be a bit hard for Nova to just start off the Baron. They could, but then if you look at the composition of JT, they have the Morgana. Morgana is one of the best anti-Baron champions. What I mean with that is she can just put down the pool, the second ability, which is gonna deal damage over time to all of the enemies, which means Nova just can't do the Baron. Especially because Baron reduces armor and magic resist, which makes them take more damage from Barry on the Morgana. So yet again, you can just clearly see Nova is trying to extend their lead as much as they can. And actually, Karakas with 3 items. Ooh, it's, you know, it is dangerous because JT just doesn't have any. Oh, yeah, like Guogo cannot do anything. JT doesn't have any magic resist. That's the problem that they have. That is pretty much the only thing holding them back from just straight up winning this game. Galio has magic resist by himself already, so Galio is not gonna get one shot. But Morgana, you know, with her shield, sure, she gets magic resist, but it's not enough against the full AP Gragas. Riven, actually, Solari Charge Blade? Now the thing about Solari's Charge Blade is, it's not good as a first item on Riven anymore now. Reason is because the more crit you have, the more damage it deals. So it just doesn't work like it used to anymore. So you're much better off if you approach the crit path on Riven. If you want to take the crit path, go for Storm Razor and then the Solari's Charge Blade. It's just generally going to be better because Solari's Charge Blade is not that good in the early game. Very interestingly, by the way, both supports went for the Warmog, and we have a fighter actually. You can see how much damage Long is dealing, by the way. Yais is doing a phenomenal job tanking up the damage. Very, very good Galio ultimate, by the way. And now Cherry as well, you know, he already wasted his ultimate, so he's in a bit of a rough spot, as you can see. Cherry does die because he unfortunately used his ultimate. Ooh, Barry with the ultimate as well, but you can see it's the Gragas dealing insane damage right here. And even though, as I talked about, JT does have the stronger late game composition, it's the Gragas that's doing an immense amount of damage. And then Remake on the Varus doing a phenomenal job cleaning up as well. Now if you look at the timers, actually 30 seconds, they're gonna tank the turret, and the reason that they're tanking the turret is because they want to keep the minions alive. Can they just win the game? Hello? They're gonna win the game. They just won the game. This is what I mean. JT did not reach the late game. They were unable to reach the late game, and they got beaten out by Nova Esports. What a fantastic game, and I'm so happy to show you guys this game because, as I said, JT was doing a really good job, but now the video is over. So thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, I will see you all in the next Wild Rift video. Bye bye.